With Kingdom Hearts 4 around the corner, hopefully, I decided it's high time we all get caught up on where our Guardians are in the series. And not only where they are, but where they came from. This will be the beginning of a series on the channel, where I plan to recap on all the important characters in the KH series. This will be to not only have a consolidated history of each main character, but also to catch you guys up before the impending release of Kingdom Hearts 4. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. I do a lot of game content with a lot of it focusing on Kingdom Hearts, so if you guys are interested in that or in catching up on the rest of the Guardians, consider subscribing to see more content just like this. While you're down there, don't forget to like the videos, that greatly helps spread the content, and go ahead and comment whose timeline you would like to see next in the series down below. So, the original plan was to sort every moment in Riku's life and any other character we cover on a clear linear timeline. However, Kingdom Hearts currently doesn't have an age or year system in place. This meaning we don't have any specific year or equivalent stating a character's birth or life to then follow the linear path from. This being said, I will instead go off of each game in the series as a quote-unquote year. So whatever game we first have any appearance of said character will be the start of their timeline, and we will then move from there and cover every major appearance that they have in the series. Riku being the main character alongside Sora, I decided to start with him, as from the end of Melody of Memory and the Kingdom Hearts 3 Secret movie, it's looking he's going to play a major role in the recovery of Sora. With that being said, let's run it back all the way to our earliest known appearance of Riku in Birth by Sleep. So currently in the series, our earliest appearance of Riku comes from when he was about 5 years old in the age of Birth by Sleep. And no, the medals and Union Cross don't count. Ironically actually, the earliest point we have of Riku is the literal start of his journey. He was venturing out to the island where he and his best friend Sora would always love to play. While there in this time, however, he noticed a tall strange man who didn't look like he belonged on the main island and definitely didn't live out here cause, well, no one lived out here. It's unknown exactly how he knows of this information, but Riku seems to have some understanding of the outside world, and that the world he lives in isn't the only one. Riku eventually approaches the man who we all know as Terra. He confronts him of this knowledge, surprising Terra that a kid could be so insightful and confident as this. Terra, noticing this, decides to take a big risk. You see, Terra performs what is known as a Keyblade ritual, where he is passing on his gift as a Keyblade wielder directly to Riku, where he will one day learn to wield a blade of his own. He then tells Riku to keep this secret, else all the magic will wear off, which Riku does. Terra then parts ways with Riku, where they wouldn't see each other for over another 10 years, officially starting Riku off on his journey where he will have a lot of ups and downs. Shortly after this, on another venture to the island with Sora, he meets another strange person, who we all come to know as Aqua. Unlike Terra, however, Riku doesn't reveal to this lady what he knows, likely trying to keep his promise to Terra. Aqua then gives advice to the two boys, saying that they should always protect each other as that's what friends do. They both promise her that they will, and then part ways with another friend that they wouldn't see for over 10 years. Skipping along an unknown amount of time, Riku and Sora were on the beach heading home, when Riku notices that Sora is crying. He brings this up and explains that there is probably someone out there who is hurting and trying to connect to Sora. Giving the advice that Sora should open his heart to this and welcome in this unknown soul, Riku unknowingly also started Sora on his journey that would connect them together as Keyblade wielders. Another small moment I want to mention that we aren't sure the exact point, but can assume it's after this point but before Kingdom Hearts 1. Sora dragged Riku to a mysterious cave on their island, where he was hearing strange noises and was convinced that there was a monster waiting to be slain. After entering the cave with Sora, however, the boys discover it's just the wind blowing in and not a vicious monster. However, they grow interested in the place and would eventually make it their secret place where they would go to scribble on the walls. Just before leaving though, Riku gets a strange feeling and turns to look at a weird door with no handle in the cave. He then notices that where there was just a blank wooden door is a giant keyhole. He doesn't mention any of this to Sora, but what he does mention to us players is a new girl at the mayor's house, who we all know as Kairi, and we finally take a 10-year jump to Kingdom Hearts 1. So it's been 10 years now. Riku is now approximately 15 years old, and to this day he still loves going to the island with his best friends Sora and Kairi. In the time since we last saw him, Riku's infatuation with the outside world has not wavered, it's only grown. In fact, he, Sora, and Kairi have all began a plan to build a raft and venture off to discover the outside world themselves. So their days mainly consist of just that, gathering materials to build and food to survive. Well, at least Riku does, as Sora just seems to be napping on the beach all the time. One day, before heading home, the gang relaxes at their favorite spot on the island, chilling on a palpa tree and watching the sunset. With this one discussion, we learn that Kairi actually came from a different world herself. We also learn from Riku that because of Kairi herself coming from the outside world, it actually inspired Riku to want to visit them himself. He expresses his gratitude of motivation by thanking Kairi, hinting at a subtle obsession or liking to Kairi herself. Before leaving for the day, Riku hands Sora a palpu fruit from the tree, explaining that whoever eats it, their destinies will become intertwined. This plot point, however, comes more into play in Sora and Kairi's timeline and will be expanded upon in their own respective timeline video. After a while, the gang eventually finishes their raft and heads home before starting on their big journey. However, unbeknownst to them, a dark force was in play and would strike tragedy to their world that very night. A weird giant dark force was in the sky over the island, causing what seemed to be a small storm. Riku, being worried about the raft they finished, heads off to the island along with his two friends. Now, it's unsure exactly what sparked Riku's interest in the darkness, or even the knowledge of it all to begin with. The main theory is that the lingering heart of Ansem, who already reached out to Sora and would already play a big part in Riku's story, had also reached out to Riku himself, feeding him this knowledge and curiosity. This is a very likely assumption, however there is no true confirmation of this in the series. Regardless, when we next see Riku, Sora has found him and is trying to save him from the impending dark storm above. However, Riku explains to Sora that darkness can provide the way out for them, that darkness can hold the power to this dream of seeing the outside world. He holds out his hand to Sora as a dark pool surrounds the two of them and begins to envelop them. As Sora approaches, trying to save his best friend, the darkness takes hold and transports Riku away to a world known as Hollow Bastion. Sora was not taken with Riku though, as unknown to Riku in this moment, accepting the darkness into his heart actually somewhat corrupted it, and the Keyblade that Riku was supposed to inherit actually rejected Riku and took Sora as its master. At least for now, that is. So after arriving in Hollow Bastion, Riku is found by none other than Maleficent, a dark witch who was on her own journey of taking over the world and unlocking the unknown power and knowledge of Kingdom Hearts, the heart of all worlds. She takes Riku in, even giving him his own bedroom as a home in Hollow Bastion. Riku didn't see it, but Maleficent was slowly implanting false trust in Riku so that she could use him as a tool in her journey to take over the worlds. So Riku goes on his own journey now, his first stop being to find both of his friends that he was separated with. After a short while, he finds Sora, in a world known as Traverse Town. We see Riku strike down what is known as a Heartless. You see, to keep things simple, Heartless are beings who have lost their heart to darkness, and as their heart was corrupted by darkness, turned them into a monstrous form without will or self-being at all anymore. So Riku strikes one down, as I said, with a new weapon he has acquired known as Soul Eater. It's basically just a dark sword that he likely acquired through channeling the darkness that he allowed into his heart, although the exact origins of this weapon are unclear. Okay, back on track with the story. So Riku finds Sora and notices him traveling with Donald and Goofy, a duck and a dog who are actually the royal mage and knight to a king who we will discuss more in detail later on. Riku enjoys seeing his friend again and explains that he's been traveling all around looking for him in Kairi. Sora reveals the same, as him and his new companions were doing just that as well. After asking where Kairi is, Riku explains he isn't sure just yet, but if Sora just leaves it all to him, they will surely find her in no time. During his boast, however, Sora takes down another Heartless that spawned, revealing to Riku for the first time the Keyblade. After a small discussion, Riku actually takes the Keyblade from Sora, which was a huge shock as no one but Sora so far has been able to wield it without returning it to him. It seems that even though Riku's heart has been corrupted, the Keyblade meant for him still has some connection with his light, or at least what's left of it. Sora then tries to offer that Riku come with them as they have a rocket that can travel the worlds, but Donald argues this, saying that Riku can't come. In the midst of their argument, Riku dips out without him even noticing. We next see him later on spying on the three, with Maleficent by his side. You see, Maleficent had began to manipulate Riku, saying that Sora had abandoned him for his new friends. Unfortunately, Riku fell for this, and his jealousy only fueled the darkness growing inside of him. Riku then falls fully into Maleficent's trap, beginning to help her on her goal of finding Kingdom Hearts. He's told that the door to this would be unlocked if they gather 7 princesses whose heart consists of pure light. Riku then helps her gather all of these princesses and promises that Maleficent will help her find Kairi. The first princess we see him capture is Jasmine. She resides in a world known as Agrabah, and while Sora, Donald, and Goofy were handling the troubles going on in the world at the time, Jasmine was left unattended, which allowed Riku to sweep in and take her back to Hollow Bastion. We don't know for sure exactly how many and which princesses Riku captures. It's possible he could have captured the majority of them, or only just Jasmine. All we know for sure is that eventually they do capture them all, except for one that they struggle to find. Keeping a promise for helping her, Maleficent reveals she has actually found Kairi and offers her to him as a reward. Riku asks Maleficent why she is helping him to begin with, which she responds with only more manipulation, saying that Riku is like a son to her, and she only wants him to be happy. Riku has his doubts still, however, but goes aboard his new vessel to see Kairi, on a ship with a pirate known as Captain Hook. Once on this ship, however, Riku finds out the hard truth. Kairi is unconscious, because she has lost her heart. Maleficent tells him that the Heartless likely took her heart, and explains that if Riku truly wants to find a way to save her and return her heart, they will have to finish their journey to find the princesses. This is where Maleficent fully reveals the plan of opening Kingdom Hearts to Riku. She explains that within it lies untold wisdom, and that surely if they finished they would find a way to recover Kairi's heart to her. Before sending him off again, however, Maleficent grants Riku the power to control the Heartless, once again only fueling the darkness growing inside of him. Riku then finds himself in a giant well known as Monstro, where he is looking for a puppet known as Pinocchio. It's here he runs into Sora again, where he begins to toy with him about maybe finding Kairi and maybe he'll tell Sora before running off. Maleficent comes in later and asks Riku why he even cares about Sora still. Riku only saying he doesn't and was just messing with him, while hiding his true connection that he still wants to have with Sora. Sora finally catches up and begins to call Riku out for his weird behavior lately. Riku only flipping the situation, saying that Sora doesn't even care to save Kairi anymore and only cares about showing off his new Keyblade. That's when they hear a scream and go to save Pinocchio, who has gotten himself into trouble and missed their argument. After taking down a boss Heartless who had taken Pinocchio, Riku takes Pinocchio himself. After being begged to give Pinocchio back, Riku explains that Pinocchio being a puppet with a heart, which is unheard of, maybe he could help someone who has lost their heart. Sora asks if Kairi was who Riku was referring to, but Riku just shouts, "What do you care about her?" before storming off with the unconscious puppet in hand. Sora again catches up with Riku, where Riku makes a proposal. He asks Sora to come with him and help save Kairi, that together they'd be more successful than apart. However, Sora raises his sword against him, shocking Riku at this action. Sora explains that it doesn't matter what Riku wants right now, but that he can tell Riku has lost his sense of right and wrong, and is currently fighting on the wrong side. Their conversation gets interrupted, however, by the same enemy they defeated before, and Riku uses this as a moment to escape back to Hook's ship. Later on, Sora and the gang actually make their way to Hook's ship, where Riku is there waiting for them. He confronts Sora, saying that his new friend should not take precedent over his old friends, stepping aside and revealing the unconscious Kairi to Sora. Sora steps forward before being cut off by Captain Hook himself, and then being surrounded by Heartless. He then asks Riku why he is siding with the Heartless before Riku responds that the Heartless obey him now, and that he has nothing to fear. Riku with his new dark powers conjures a dark Sora and casts Sora, Donald, and Goofy down into the brig. He then gives orders to Hook to keep Sora away from Kairi, much to Hook's annoyance. Later on, Hook and Riku discuss that apparently the girl they came to Neverland to capture, Wendy, is actually not one of the princesses of heart needed for Kingdom Hearts. Hook then asks why Maleficent even cares about these princesses anyway, before Riku says that he doesn't care and only cares about saving Kairi and will do whatever it takes. It's then revealed that Sora and his friends have escaped their imprisonment along with a boy named Peter Pan, who, by the reaction of Hook, seems to be a problem for Riku. Riku then goes to retrieve Kairi, and as Sora shows up to save her, Riku retreats, taking Kairi and leaving Sora to deal with the dark form conjured earlier. Later on, we see Riku left back to Hollow Bastion, but he didn't take a vessel and traveled through the darkness alone, an extremely risky move that could have taken them both and absolutely only strengthened the hold darkness had on Riku's heart. Maleficent warns us to Riku that relying on the darkness too much could cost him his heart, but can clearly see that Riku doesn't care in the slightest. They're interrupted by the roar of Beast, the love of Belle, another princess they captured who has come to save her. Before sending Riku off to handle him, she grants Riku even more power with the darkness, and this time Riku fully accepts it, reveling in the newfound power that he has awakened. Riku goes to confront the Beast, and as Beast lunges at him, Riku actually takes him down, a feat that should not be understated at all. In usual fashion, of course, Sora, Donald, and Goofy once again show up. However, this time, Riku was not only expecting this, but hoping for it. Riku reveals that there can't be two Keyblade Masters before raising his hand, and summoning Sora's very own Keyblade to his hand. He then leaves Sora, throwing him a wooden sword to go play hero. Unfortunately for Sora, Donald and Goofy leave to join Riku, as their mission from the king was to follow the Keyblade, and sadly, Sora wasn't its master anymore. Riku was. Later on, however, Sora, accompanied by Beast, confronts Riku. Beast, however, is tricked and pounces after a Heartless, leaving Sora alone to fight Riku. Sora says he won't leave without Kairi, which Riku responds that the darkness would destroy him before transforming into a new dark form that he has unlocked by giving into the darkness. Sora says the darkness can do all it wants, but it will never touch his heart, as Riku takes this as a challenge and launches a dark fireball directly at Sora. However, just before it hits him, Goofy steps in and blocks it, saving Sora. Riku calls Goofy out, asking if he would really betray his king, but Goofy doesn't give in, and explains that it's not about betraying the king, but saving Sora, who has become one of his best friends after all they've been through. Sadly, Donald also joins them with the same feeling, leaving Riku alone to fight. Riku, however, still holds the Keyblade, and says that Sora couldn't stand up to that if he wanted to. But Sora, showing its confidence again, explains that he doesn't need the Keyblade, that his heart is strong enough to win. Riku laughs at this, but before he knows it, the Keyblade leaves his hand and returns to Sora. The boys then have a battle where, unfortunately for Riku, Sora comes out on top. Riku flees after losing, and after wondering why the Keyblade left him when it was clearly supposed to be his, he is confronted by the remnant heart of Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness. Ansem explains that Sora's heart in that moment was stronger than Riku, and that's why he lost. But Ansem had other plans. You see, Ansem, seeing the way Riku accepted darkness, decided to plant his own seeds in Riku. He tells Riku that he was imprisoned by how Riku accepted the darkness, and that if he wanted, he could have even more power than he dreamed of. Unfortunately, Riku falls full force into this, and asks what he needs to do. Ansem tells him to open his heart to darkness, and to become darkness itself. We don't see it, but as the screen fades, Riku opens his heart to Ansem, letting him in and giving fully into the darkness of his heart. Later on, this new half Riku, half Ansem being, who we will just call Riku Ansem, discusses with Maleficent. They confront at the keyhole of the world, and Riku Ansem reveals to now have a Keyblade of his own, constructed from all the hearts taken from the 6 princesses that they currently have taken. With the reveal of the Keyblade, the keyhole should be complete now. However, nothing happens, and Maleficent turns to reveal that it must be Kairi, that since she doesn't have her heart, the keyhole will remain incomplete, and revealing to us that Kairi is the 7th and last princess of heart. Maleficent leaves to confront Sora and the gang herself, and leaves Riku Ansem to guard the princesses. As she leaves, Riku Ansem glows, revealing just how much this young boy, once full of light, has given into the darkness of his heart. After their fight, Maleficent is left wounded, and Riku Ansem appears asking if she needs any help. Sora, Donald, and Goofy, being right behind her, notice the Keyblade in Riku's hand. As they ask of this, Riku explains that it is in fact a Keyblade, but a special one at that. He explains that the Keyblade has the power to unlock people's hearts. He offers a demonstration before plunging the blade into Maleficent's chest. Attached to her, it glows, as Riku tells her the same thing Ansem told him. Once finished, he leaves as Maleficent turns into a giant dragon. After Sora, Donald, and Goofy take down Maleficent for good, Riku Ansem returns. He explains Maleficent was just a tool that the Heartless were using as a puppet all along, and that the darkness in the end took her down. And as ironic as it is, Riku would be in just that same situation. The boys eventually come face to face again, where Sora finds an unconscious Kairi and attempts to wake her. Riku Ansem interrupts us by saying that she has lost her heart and cannot wake up, and therefore the keyhole cannot be completed so long as the last princess still sleeps. Sora, shocked at this revelation, begs this being to let Riku go and to give him back his heart, before Riku Ansem says that Sora must first give Kairi back her heart. Sora crumbles to the ground as Kairi's heart inside him responds to this. It's revealed that at the moment Kairi lost her heart, it found solitude within Sora, and as Kairi has a pure heart of light, she was not able to turn to the Heartless. Sora shouts, demanding to know who Riku really is when he responds,
"It is I, Ansem."
Ansem advances on Sora, ready to take him down and retrieve Kairi's heart, but just before he could strike him down, Kairi's heart calls out to Sora, giving him the strength to fight back. Sora demands he will never let him take Kairi's heart, and the boys begin a final all-out one-on-one duel. As the battle concludes, Sora is victorious, and Riku's body fades, dropping the Keyblade behind. I'll explain this next part in more detail on Sora and Kairi's timeline, but to simplify, Sora uses the Keyblade to release Kairi's heart, which turns Sora into a Heartless, revives Kairi, and completes the keyhole. Now, Ansem himself appears in his true form, now having access to such after taking over Riku completely. He advances on Donald, Goofy, and Kairi, who are completely outmatched, but is stopped as the will of Riku left inside fights back. He appears and does all he can to hold Ansem back, telling the gang to get out of here as the Heartless are soon to come and take everything over, to which they take off, escaping the world. Next we see of Riku, he is wandering around in the realm of darkness, where his heart now lies after his body was taken over by Ansem. While there, Riku is reached out to by an unknown voice, who explains that he has been trying to reach Riku but the darkness in him kept him out of reach. The voice explains that Riku's heart won the battle against the darkness, but it was too late for his body, which is why he found himself here in the realm of darkness. He also explains that the door to darkness will open soon, and needs to be closed from both sides. He also explains that Riku should be able to feel the remnant of his friends' hearts, letting Riku know that Sora and Kairi are indeed okay. It's then set out to Riku that he will help close this door from both sides. Later on, after Sora and his friends defeat Ansem, the door is opened just as was said before. Riku reveals himself and the boys begin to close the door before darkness seeps out, but the Heartless are already forming. However, that same voice that appeared to Riku appears now as none other than King Mickey. He defeats all the Heartless forming and shouts, "Now Sora, let's close this door for good." The boys do just that, and as the door is closed, Riku leaves Sora with one last message.
"Take care of her."
The door is closed and sealed by Sora and Mickey's Keyblades, leaving the realms at peace, and Riku and Mickey stuck to wander the realm of darkness. So Riku is now left in the realm of darkness, and no way out. As he floats in endless nothing, however, he is visited by another voice. The voice explains that Riku is stuck here in a realm in between both light and dark. Riku awakes in a panic and wonders where the king is. He knows they just sealed the door, but we're on the dark side and should be stuck there. The voice tells Riku that after they sealed it, Riku came drifting to this place all on his own. The voice then explains to Riku that there are two options. One, he could stay here in the security of sleep and never have to worry about the dangers that lie ahead. Or two, he could take this voice's guidance and return to the world he once belonged. In true Riku fashion, he takes the hand, or technically the card, of the voice, exclaiming,
"This seemed like a boring place to take a nap anyway,"
and is transported to the basement of a place known as Castle Oblivion. Riku takes the card given to him by the stranger and uses it on the door just ahead, where he appears in none other than his old home, Hollow Bastion. While wandering around, the voice again appears and explains the world is not real, but however, just a recreation from Riku's memory. Riku wanders around wondering why he doesn't see anyone from his memory, and the voice again appears to explain just why. He says that when Riku accepted the darkness, he cast away those people pushing them aside, that Riku cast everything aside for the darkness. Riku shouts that in the end he cast that aside too, the voice responding that Riku's heart only knows how to cast away, and that's why he doesn't see anyone, because his heart is empty after all he threw away for power, and all that is left inside is the residual darkness. After exclaiming that he rejected the darkness, not accepted it, the voice only taunts him, laughing and asking, "Did you now?" before Riku runs off once again. Riku eventually runs into Maleficent, or more specifically the memory of her. Riku asks why he can see her but no one else, to which she explains that his heart is steeped in darkness and can only see those that exist in that same darkness. After a bit more taunting, Maleficent turns into a dragon form and the two begin in a battle to which Riku is victorious. After the fact, Riku advances on and leaves the memory of Hollow Bastion, where he appears back in Castle Oblivion. Riku is again confronted by the voice, who taunts Riku more that the darkness is his weapon and attempts to pull Riku in to accept the darkness again. He appears just before Riku as none other than Ansem, and tells Riku he is to serve him once again. You see, even though Ansem was defeated by Sora, because he placed his heart upon Riku, that darkness within him allowed Ansem to remain grounded and not truly disappear. So as he appears now, he asks Riku to surrender to him again. Riku rejects this and advances on Ansem before he is thrown back with ease. As Ansem advances on Riku, however, another voice appears saying,
"You're wrong!"
The voice appears as a ball of light and is revealed to be none other than King Mickey. He reaches out to Riku that the darkness doesn't have to overcome Riku, and that the light deep within Riku will always protect him so long as he doesn't give up. Riku stands as he engages in a battle with the Ansem in front of him. After their battle, Ansem notes Riku is not intent on giving in to him just yet. He offers Riku another card to continue on, but explains that chasing after the light will not distance him from the darkness. Riku explains that he's not running at all, and takes the card to continue on. Before he leaves, however, Ansem tempers the darkness in Riku's heart, and leaves him the choice of using that power up to Riku. And just before leaving, Ansem explains that he will be waiting for the day Riku finally gives in to the darkness in his heart. So Riku continues on to sort through the dark worlds of his memories, where he sees no one but those who reside in that same darkness he once fell into. After a while though, he is reached out to once again by King Mickey. Mickey appears in an ethereal form, however, saying that he can only reach a bit of his power to this place. He explains to Riku he is working on a way to get to him, but has a request for the time being. He wants Riku to continue fighting and to not give in to the darkness in his heart. After Mickey disappears, Riku continues on again before running into a man named Vexen, who appears through a dark portal in a black coat. Riku asks if Vexen works with Ansem, to which Vexen responds that he is half correct, that the leader is Ansem but not the same Ansem, and resides in not darkness but the road in between. Vexen also explains that he also resides in the same place, and notes that Riku does as well. Riku says he's nothing like him, and the two engage in a quick battle. After the fact, Vexen notes that there is definitely a powerful darkness that resides in Riku's heart. Vexen says the fight provided him with valuable data, before storming off, leaving Riku in much confusion. Riku continues on and is shocked at who he runs into next. He is confronted by a person who looks exactly like Riku. The being explains that he is actually a replica made by Vexen with the data gathered in their fight. Riku calls him a fake, which angers the replica very much. He says they may have the same body and talents, but unlike Riku, the replica isn't afraid of the darkness. That unlike Riku, he can embrace the darkness and make it do his own bidding before raising his sword and engaging the two in battle. After the battle, Riku himself is victorious, and the replica explains that he's still new and it won't be the same next time. Riku tries a cocky attack at this remark, but is thrown back by the replica. The replica says it's nice having darkness on his side and Riku can keep playing the coward before running off. Riku advances once again, denying being a coward as the replica said. As he runs to the next floor, he shouts for the replica before being confronted again by Ansem. Ansem explains that he isn't a copy, but instead an example of what Riku should be, once again manipulating Riku to accept the darkness. Ansem explains Riku used to accept the darkness in open arms, but is now afraid of it. After Riku attempts to strike in denial of this, Ansem leaves him more cards to continue on through his memories, and states that eventually he will learn he cannot resist the darkness forever. As Riku continues through these memories, he wonders if he will ever be free of the darkness. Nonetheless, he finishes his last card memory and after appearing on the other side is confronted by another being in a dark coat known as Lexaeus. Riku recognizes him as another one of the nobodies that Vexen mentioned. Lexaeus confronts Riku on the same as the others, that Riku should not fear the darkness, as with his power he could be more powerful with the darkness on his side. After Riku rejects another offer, Lexaeus advances Riku and the two begin a battle. Unlike the other battles, however, Riku comes out on the bottom, defeated by Lexaeus. However, unfortunately for Lexaeus in this time of peril, Riku's heart naturally reached out to the darkness to survive. Taken over by that darkness, in a form similar to when Riku was taken over by Ansem, he strikes Lexaeus down with ease. We then see Riku floating in a void of darkness, where he feels the force and darkness of the full Ansem. After Riku's heart reached out to darkness, Ansem took hold and now attempts to take Riku over completely and return to the world once again. However, Riku is saved once again by the light of King Mickey, and when Riku appears back in Castle Oblivion, the king is nowhere to be found. Although Riku searches for him and to no end, he realizes that the king is with him in his heart. Shortly after, while advancing ahead, the whole castle begins to shake, to which Riku feels that the presence of a very powerful darkness has just faded. At the same moment, Riku is confronted by another nobody named Zexion, who explains that the leader of the castle has just been slain by the Keyblade Master. Riku makes the connection that he means Sora, and asks if that means Sora is here in the castle. Zexion offers him a chance to see Sora, but asks if Riku is really ready to see him. That after all that has happened, can this Riku who has been tainted by darkness really face Sora? He throws Riku another card, this one being of his homeworld, Destiny Islands, and explains that if he wishes, then to continue on to see the truth. After continuing to the memory world, Riku finds a few of his old friends from the islands, but as he tries to see them, they disappear in light, once again solidifying that all Riku's heart remembers is darkness. He then finds Zexion in the islands, and Zexion explains that surely Riku knew he could not see his friends. Zexion taunts Riku even more, accusing that the fall of the islands itself was Riku's fault, that Riku's infatuation with the outside world is what caused the darkness to appear in the first place. After defeating a dark side placed by Zexion, Riku sees Sora himself and attempts to confront him. Sora, however, attacks Riku, much to Riku's surprise, and exclaims that he can see exactly what Riku has become, just another pawn of the darkness, and then raises his Keyblade and envelops Riku in light. Riku finds himself floating in a void of light, where he begins to accept his fate of fading into light. He is confronted, however, by an ethereal form of Kairi. Kairi explains that Riku is too strong, that he could never be defeated, not by darkness or by light. She explains that instead of fighting the darkness, he should accept it, that darkness is very strong and can make him stronger. She also states that he should not be afraid and not give in to that darkness, but to know that it's there and know that it will never overcome him so long as he doesn't fear it. Riku takes all of this in and embraces his darkness fully, but does not give in just as said. It's with this he is able to see through the void and strike Zexion down, who is appearing as Sora all along as a trick. After another battle, Riku comes out victorious. He strikes Zexion down fully, who disappears just before he fades. Unknown to Riku though, Zexion would be taken out fully by another force, but that's a story for another time. After returning back to Castle Oblivion, Riku is confronted by Ansem again. Since Riku embraced the darkness, Ansem explains that the stronger Riku's darkness is, the stronger Ansem is. He then traps Riku and attempts to take over once again before the king also appears once again to save Riku. This time being different, however, because Mickey appears in his full form, finally arrived at Castle Oblivion to help Riku. The two have a touching reunion, and Mickey explains that he found a card that when he touched it, brought him to the castle much similar to how Riku arrived. The two take the card and use it to open the door to a world known as Twilight Town. As they enter, however, Ansem appears and attempts to battle Riku, but Riku rejects him. Riku notes that this Ansem's present isn't the same as the real Ansem, and therefore it can't really be him. Riku realizes that this person, whoever they may be, is the true original voice that brought him to the castle in the beginning, the one that guided him on the journey through the castle. The being claims this as correct and reveals its true form as Diz. Diz explains that he has been watching Riku and he wants Riku to choose, that Riku is a special being who can belong in both the light and the dark. He tells Riku to first go see Naminé, and then he will make his choice. Riku does just that and continues along to find Naminé. Before he can, however, he is confronted again by his replica, who has changed a lot since they last met. The replica now realizes he is a fake and can never truly be real so long as the real Riku is alive, and in true Kingdom Hearts fashion, the two engage in a battle to the death. After Riku beats the replica, he feels sorry for him. The replica wonders where his fake body will even go when it fades, to which Riku says, and hopes, that maybe it will go to the same place as him. The replica then fades with a smile, and the two part ways for a long time, but not forever. Riku then finds Naminé, who is standing by a pod with Sora floating in it. Riku panics and wants Sora out, but Namine explains that Sora is asleep to reclaim the memories that she herself tampered with. She tells Riku Sora was given a choice to forget the castle and remember his life, or forget his life and stay with her, and in the end he chose his own life. She then states it's time for Riku to make his own choice, the very choice that Diz mentioned earlier. Namine explains that she can lock Riku's heart, or more specifically his darkness, so that Ansem will never be able to come out from inside of him. However, if he does this, Riku will begin to also lose his memories, and he will return to how he was before he ever let darkness tamper with his heart. Riku takes one look at Sora, and then he decides. If he forgets, he won't be ready to face Sora after all that's happened. Riku decides to face Ansem himself, and to keep who he is, after all he's been through. Namine asks what if Ansem's darkness overtakes him, while Riku responds that the darkness will show him the way. Namine wasn't even surprised at his answer, in fact she hoped for it, as it was actually her who came to Riku in the light earlier and not Kairi, and gave him that very same advice. So as Riku leaves and returns to the castle, he's confronted by Mickey and Diz. Diz explains that it is now up to Riku to believe in Diz or not, and hands him a black coat, just as the organization wears. He explains the organization will be after Riku, and that this coat will ward off the darkness and defer its presence from them. Riku explains once again he's done running from the darkness before moving on to the final floor. Just before they advance to the final door, however, Riku asks Mickey for a favor. As Riku is about to face Ansem, he knows his heart could fall to darkness and therefore return Ansem completely. Therefore, if that happens, he wants Mickey to destroy his heart. He's cut off, however, and Mickey denies such favor, saying that no matter what happens, he will be right there to help save him. That after everything, he and Riku are friends now, and Mickey isn't going to let him fade. Riku thanks him, and the two move on to face Ansem in the final battle. Ansem tries one last time to convince Riku to join him, but it's no use as the two engage in the battle once again. Riku comes out victorious, but in the end, Ansem explains that his shadow will always linger and that one day he will return. In his final words, Ansem's darkness explodes and takes hold of Riku. However, just as Mickey said, he comes in just in time to save Riku from fading into darkness. As the two leave the castle, Mickey asks Riku if he's going to return home, but Riku says he can't yet. He says he knows that Ansem's shadow will always be there, and he can't return so long as he still remains. Mickey offers an encouraging word, and says that until he met Riku, he thought darkness should never exist, but his time with Riku changed his mind, and now he'd like to walk the road with Riku on the journey to figure out where that darkness leads. Riku takes Mickey's gesture and is honored to have such a friend at his side. The two then don the coats and meet up with Diz. Diz asks Riku if his choice is made, has he decided to walk the road to dark or the road to light. In the end, Riku says that neither suit him, and explains he's not walking either road, but the road in between. Not Twilight Road to Nightfall, but the road through the darkness that ends in light. Riku chose the road to dawn.
Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road.
Do you mean the Twilight Road to Nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
So for the next year of his life, Riku dedicates his time doing whatever he can to help restore Sora's memories and wake him up. At the same time, he also continues to help Diz in his efforts to discover Organization 13's true goals and work to take them down. The next time we see Riku physically is in his first encounter with Shion, a replica made to copy the powers of Roxas, Sora's nobody, who passively began to also siphon Sora's memories of Kairi, which in turn kept Sora from waking up. In this encounter, the two have a brief fight, however Riku easily outmatches her, and proceeds to find out more of this mysterious woman. After getting a look at her face, he's taken back, as her face resembles either Sora or Kairi. We aren't sure exactly what Riku saw. What we do know is Riku is clearly shocked at this, and then proceeds to call her Keyblade a fake, and giving her the advice that the organization is bad news and she should stay away. He leaves Shion broken and beaten, but this isn't the last that they'll see of each other. Riku would eventually discuss with Namine what he discovered of Shion, to which Namine explains what I stated before. However, Namine also adds that for Sora to fully wake, both Shion and Roxas will both need to be defeated, so that what was taken from Sora can be returned. So Riku eventually meets up again with Shion, on his old home of Destiny Islands. Unlike before though, this time things go a lot smoother. The two actually have a conversation, as at this point, Shion has more concern with finding out who or what she really is, and what her connection to Sora was. Riku then explains the truth, that Shion has passively taken Sora's memories of Kairi, except the hair color for some reason. The two actually open up a bit to each other, Shion even jokingly apologizing for taking Sora away from Riku. Before leaving, Riku leaves Shion with a choice, to go with him and return what belongs to Sora, or return to her friends and continue living her life. I'll explain the next part more in detail in Shion and Roxas' timelines, but to sum it up, Shion would go with Riku for a while before being forced back by Axel, another one of her friends. Eventually, Shion decides to return what she took from Sora, and baits Roxas into destroying her to do it. After her death, Roxas is in shambles and out of anger, seeks out revenge on the organization, which is where we meet back up with Riku. Riku would eventually intercept Roxas, but anticipating the upcoming events, decides to meet up with his old pal King Mickey beforehand. Riku at first appears to Mickey in the form of Ansem, but transforms back to himself before they speak. This is because Riku realizes that Ansem's darkness still has a hold on his heart, and is always on edge of taking him over. At the same time, Riku knew the upcoming encounter with Roxas may not end well, and decides to ask Mickey for a favor. He first explains the situation with Sora, as the two haven't seen each other in a long time and Mickey has some catching up to do. Afterwards, he explains in this fight with Roxas, he could end up giving into the darkness in him to win. Because of this, Riku makes Mickey promise that whatever happens, he will be there to guide Sora, Donald, and Goofy when they wake up, as Riku would not let himself face them if what he feared came to fruition. Mickey promised, and the two friends part ways once again. So in the world that never was, a homeworld to nobodies in the organization, Riku intercepts Roxas on his way to get his revenge. The two meet at Memory Skyscraper, where they will have an all-out duel, and neither really comes out on top. In their duel, Riku baits Roxas a lot, bringing up Shion, calling out to Sora and him, and working his way to taking Roxas back with him. Though, unfortunately for Riku, in the end, Roxas came out on top, which led Riku to what he feared the most. You see, Riku knew the darkness could win him this fight, but feared the consequences of opening up that gate again. However, in light of his best friend's life on the line, Riku made the difficult decision and opened his heart to darkness. At this point, Riku's physical appearance changes to reflect that of Ansem, where he also dons the Guardian and easily overpowers Roxas this time. Once Diz shows up, the two take Roxas back where they work towards restoring Sora's memory once and for all. So they wipe Roxas' memory and put him in a simulation of Twilight Town, where he will live out for 5 days as they prepare him to return to Sora. Riku for this time does Diz's bidding in keeping Roxas in check, even calling himself Ansem at one point, fully accepting his dark role he has taken upon himself. The time came to restore Sora, but before that, Riku decided to pry Diz for more information, as he had been doing the bidding for Diz for going on a year now, and had no idea what he even wanted with him to begin with. Diz explains revenge, but doesn't elaborate on the details, which seems to agitate Riku. Eventually Diz says it's time, that not only Roxas but also Naminé must be disposed of, clearly showing his hate for nobodies. However, Riku had different plans. He meets up with Naminé and Axel, who both helped restore Sora. To both their surprises, Riku out of gratitude decides to spare them instead, where he lets them go off, ignoring Diz's request to destroy them. So Riku from here on out decides to work from the shadows. He slowly helps out the gang without ever trying to let them know that he's even there. He even helps Kairi make her way to Twilight Town to reunite with Sora. However, she is intercepted by Axel, who is on his own journey to get Roxas back. We see him leave clues for Sora, Donald, and Goofy that secrets lie within the mansion in Twilight Town, that their answers about whoever this Roxas is and where the organization are could be found. Riku also travels to a world known as Land of Dragons, where he takes down a Chinese general with ease to explain to the Emperor about some impending organization shenanigans. I mention this because I want to note that Riku being able to take down this general with such ease clearly shows just how powerful he has become in the series. While here, he also has a small run-in with Sora, where the two have a small duel, Sora believing he's a member of Organization 13. As to why Riku chose this fight is unclear, but personally, I like to think that he just missed his best friend. Nonetheless, Riku runs off after, with his secret intact. So Riku eventually decides to take fight to the organization, where he confronts a high member named Sayax, who currently had Kairi imprisoned at their home base. Sayax attempts to flee, but before Riku could chase after, Kairi, who was rescued by Naminé, stops him. You see, even with the change in appearance, Kairi was able to put the pieces together that this man who helped her was Riku. She would also convince Riku that their priority should be to go help Sora, which they do. Just before they do though, Kairi is overrun by Heartless, to which Riku bails her out and decides to give her her very own Keyblade, so that she may be better of use to fight and help Sora. I also want to take a second to note that somewhere along the line here, Riku actually acquired a Keyblade of his very own, a similar design to his Soul Eater sword known as Way to Dawn. It's unsure when he acquired this, but he is clearly shown to have it throughout Kingdom Hearts 2 cutscenes. So the time comes and Riku helps Kairi reunite with Sora. However, before he can leave, Sora stops him. Believing that he is actually Ansem, Sora begins to thank Riku for helping Kairi. It's Kairi who decides to let Sora know that this isn't Ansem, but in fact his long-lost best friend. The three hold hands where they allow their hearts to connect, which in turn allows Sora to see behind the disguise and see Riku for who he really is. Sora breaks down in front of Riku, pleading that he looked everywhere and was constantly worried about what happened to him. Riku responds that he didn't want to be found. He then explains what he had to do to get this far, and that he didn't want to be seen like this in front of the two of them. So after touching a reunion, the three friends are finally reunited for a short time. The gang then takes out two organization members, first up being Luxord, followed by the previously mentioned Sayax. After Syx was defeated, Sora began to get fed up on why everyone from the organization referred to him as Roxas. Riku is the one to explain to Sora that Roxas is his nobody, to which Sora had no knowledge of until this moment. He then goes to explain his fight with Roxas and how he had a hunch that Roxas really just wanted to meet Sora after everything that happened. So the gang eventually catches up with Mickey and Diz, who had been revealed to actually be the original true Ansem known as Ansem the Wise. Ansem had been working to destroy Kingdom Hearts, a power that the organization had been working to building to become real people again. They are interrupted by Xemnas, who not only was the organization's leader, but also was the original apprentice of Ansem, and sparked for his need for revenge. Once again, I would be glad to go over this in more detail in a timeline for Ansem or Xemnas, as there's a lot to unpack there. So eventually, the machine Ansem was using to destroy Kingdom Hearts becomes overwhelmed with the power it contains and self-destructs, taking a substantial amount of power from Kingdom Hearts and unfortunately taking Ansem as well. However, in the explosion, a miracle happened. You guys, being the great viewers you are, like the video and subscribe to see more content like this on the channel in the future. Oh, yeah, and Riku got like his real body back or something. So to quickly go through this next part, as a lot of weird stuff happens, basically Riku, Sora, and Mickey confront Xemnas. Xemnas eventually takes what's left of Kingdom Hearts into himself and disappears. A door then spawns and Mickey explains that the hearts of the worlds came together to give them this door to reach Xemnas. So the three band their keyblades together and open the door, to then make their way through a series of battles before finally defeating Xemnas. After the fight, Riku attempts to open a portal so that they can all leave and return home, however he is unsuccessful. Mickey explains that after the explosion, Riku no longer has ties to the Dark Realm anymore. Shockingly though, a portal does open thanks to Roxas and Naminé, who had both returned to Kairi and Sora's heart where they belonged. After touching goodbye to their nobodies, Riku explains that they're all still them, that nothing has changed, and they begin to make their way to the portal. Before Sora and Riku could get through, however, the portal closes on its own, leaving the two behind, as it's shown that Xemnas isn't done after all. So Sora and Riku depart on the true final battle, in what might be one of the coolest in-game boss segments in gaming history. So in their final fight with Xemnas, Riku takes a hit to save Sora at one point and is down for the count. However, in an amazing team up, Riku hands Sora his keyblade, to which Sora dons both of their blades to take Xemnas down. The two then join hands on the keyblade and fire a beam of light together at Xemnas, finally taking him down and ending the organization's reign for good. And by for good, I mean that this is Kingdom Hearts, so really it's just for now.
For now?
After the fight, however, Riku and Sora are somehow transported to the realm of darkness. Riku has taken substantial damage from the fight and, wanting to rest on the shore, decides to accept their fate, that they are stuck with no way out. Fortunately, Riku comes across a letter from Kairi to Sora sent floating in the waves long ago that finally makes its way to him. Reading the note, Sora's connection with Kairi seems to resonate as it opens the door to light, allowing the boys to return home where they truly belong. They step through and crash into Destiny Islands where their journey once began. They reunite with all their friends who were just so happened to be there waiting for them. After all the turmoil and the trauma, Riku has returned home with his friends. So Kingdom Hearts Recoded takes place in a data world recreating the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. Since this is all data and not the real Riku, I won't be discussing this here, but I did want to note that in the end scene that from what Mickey learns in Recoded, he discusses it with Yen Sid, his old Keyblade Master. Yen Sid decides that due to an upcoming event much more dire than the previous dangers they have faced, it's time to prepare Sora and Riku. It's time for them to take the Mark of Mastery, an exam to become true Keyblade Masters. So I want to point out that the amount of time from the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 and the beginning of Dream Drop Distance is not quite clear. We know for sure that it wasn't that long, so no substantial year time jumps or anything. At most, best guess the fans have come up with is a couple of weeks, depending on who you ask. Regardless, however, Riku did not get very long to relax back at home before he and Sora were called upon again. When meeting up with Yen Sid, he explains the situation at hand. He explains the backstory on Xehanort, a man behind everything whose body and mind was split apart but will indeed return one day to trouble us yet again. The point of this test is to prepare Riku and Sora for that impending event, as well as give them both a chance to become a true Keyblade Master. Sora expresses rightful concerns at this, as he and Riku have already proved themselves formidably in the past and should be well beyond the title of Master. However, it's Riku actually who expresses a bit of doubt, understanding that the darkness still has a hold on his heart deep down and struggles to wonder if he's even fit to wield the Keyblade at all. With that, Sora is convinced, and the two embark on their test to restore the sleeping worlds. To briefly explain, in the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, when the worlds were restored from darkness, some worlds never fully awoke from it, so even though they return to the realm of light, their heart still sleeps from falling into darkness. The test is to restore all these worlds and awake them fully. Now, I'm not exactly sure on the details of this next part, so if someone is feeling a bit smarter than me, feel free to comment below, but to travel to the sleeping worlds, the boys traveled back in time, a power I'll explain more in detail later, to their time on Destiny Islands. They then fight Ursula for some reason, and afterward a key to the sleeping world awakes. The guys then summon their Keyblades and use it to travel to the sleeping worlds. Again, the details are kinda hazy for me and I couldn't find any concrete details myself, so if any lore buffs out there are feeling it, feel free to comment down below and I'll pin the comment so anyone else can see it. So once in the sleeping worlds, Riku finds himself separate from Sora and back in Traverse Town, the main hub world of Kingdom Hearts 1. He runs into a man named Joshua who is a part of a friend group who is stuck in a game to save their lives in the midst of the sleeping Traverse Town. Riku asks Joshua if he knows where Sora is. Joshua says that he doesn't, but admits that there are currently two versions of Traverse Town and therefore Sora must be in the other one. Joshua also gives info on Dream Eaters and Nightmares. Basically, they're the Heartless-esque enemies of the sleeping worlds, as darkness can't quite reach here. Riku eventually runs into Beat, one of Joshua's friends fighting in the game. The two have a small feud that is quickly resolved before suddenly Riku passes out. When he wakes, the guys are gone, but he notices a redheaded girl being chased after by Dream Eaters and goes to save her. After doing so, Riku learns her name is Shiki, and that she is trying to find her game partner. To keep her safe, Riku agrees to accompany her along the way, where eventually they run into a man in a black hood just like the organization. The Black Hood had tricked Shiki into luring Riku there and promises saving her and her friends at the price of Riku himself. The Black Hood pulls back his hood to reveal a young boy about Riku's age with grey hair and yellow eyes, which Riku does not recognize. He summons a large Dream Eater who Riku has to take down, and after doing so, he, Beat, and Shiki are all greeted outside by ethereal forms of their friends and Sora, showing that the two worlds are indeed connected after all. Once both Sora and Riku completed their missions on their respective sides, Joshua goes more in depth on their situation. It's not that relevant to Riku outside of what we already explained though, so I won't go in depth, but afterwards the boys seal Traverse Town, awakening their first sleeping world in their mark of mastery. Riku next finds himself in La Cité de Cloche, where he meets a gypsy named Esmeralda and a French captain named Phoebus. He notices Esmeralda running away and actually covers for her when confronted by Phoebus about her whereabouts. She thanks him for this and explains that Judge Frollo, who was with the captain, is hunting her kind. She explains that she would hate to know what kind of darkness would drive such actions in someone, to which Riku reflects as he has much experience with that same darkness. Riku wants to learn more and is directed to the Chapel of Notre Dame ahead for answers. Here he runs into Quasimodo, who says that Frollo is his master, protecting him from the outside world. Riku actually gives Quasimodo the advice that a true fan would see him for who he really is, and tells him to ask his heart. He then sets off for the edge of town to find Frollo, saying to himself that he wishes he could take his own advice. On the way there, he runs into a giant Dream Eater causing trouble, and after narrowly dodging him to the edge of town, learns that Frollo himself spawned this creature from his own darkness. The creature is then set off back to the chapel to burn down the gypsies, including Esmeralda, and Riku chases after. He's a bit late, however, as the chapel was already set ablaze. Luckily, Quasimodo had actually saved Esmeralda, and knowing that she's safe, Riku heads to confront the Dream Eater. He runs into Frollo at the top, and in confrontation, Frollo actually falls off down into the fire below. After all this, however, Riku is confronted by none other than Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, accompanied by the same young gray-haired boy. Riku ponders how this is even possible before Ansem does some usual picking at the darkness in Riku. Unfazed though, Riku shouts that he walked the road to dawn and that the Keyblade will guide him to the light. So Riku then takes down the Dream Eater, who is patiently listening nearby. How nice of him. He then meets up with Quasimodo, Phoebus, and Esmeralda, to which Riku actually opens up that his advice to Quasimodo earlier was speaking from personal experience. They actually comfort him with this, allowing Riku a little solace in the fact that he's not the only one who's locked his own darkness away, and tells himself that he can't be fazed because he knows the road his heart walks. With all said and done, Riku seals the sleeping world and moves on to the next. Landing next in Prankster's Paradise, specifically in the body of the whale Monstro, Riku runs into Geppetto, whom he has an awkward history with if you'll remember from Kingdom Hearts 1. Luckily, being a sleeping world, Geppetto doesn't have those memories, and Riku offers help in finding Pinocchio, who Geppetto lost in the belly of Monstro. Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio's conscience, gives more details on how Pinocchio wandered off with a stranger in a black coat, to which Riku catches Zero for sure. So Riku goes off to find them, and Jiminy tags along. When they catch up, Riku confronts the black-headed man, only for him to flip his hood and reveal Riku's fate. Riku reflects that this was his dark side, the side that gave in so long ago. Pinocchio suggests that he get a conscience too, and Jiminy asks if Riku does have a friend or anyone to turn to. Riku smiles knowing just who that is, and reflects on his best friend Sora, who was always there for him with that stupid grin on his face. A loud rumble shakes the belly, and Riku tells the boys to stay back while he handles it, to which he runs into another large Dream Eater who he takes down with ease. After reuniting Pinocchio and Geppetto, Riku reflects on Master Yinse's words that the worlds have been freed from darkness, but are yet to wake from it. And although he doesn't say it, I like to think that Riku felt that personally, as a boy who was freed from darkness and yet to wake from it. But with that done, he seals the third world and continues on. Riku next finds himself in a world known as the Grid, a world very similar to the computer world in Ansem's computer from Kingdom Hearts 2. He's captured by guards and runs into Sam, a user searching the grid for the creator, his father. Riku participates in a brief light cycle battle before escaping his imprisonment along with Sam. Sam offers Riku a way off the grid through a portal, and Riku was hesitant at first, as this wasn't his main mission, but decides to accompany him along the way instead. Eventually the two find his father, and along with him and a girl named Korra, the gang make their way towards the portal. Along the way, Sam's father explains how in creating this world he accidentally created Clue, the main villain, after them, who although originally intended to protect the grid, is now corrupted on a mission to conquer it. Riku again reflects on this, at how even Xehanort in his mission for answers created Ansem, and that if we're not careful with our curiosity, any one of us can create their own Ansem. The gang is then intercepted shortly after. To skim through a bit of not too important details, they eventually recover the key to the portal and fight through to make their way there. Clue is waiting for them, however, along with a Dream Eater that he spawned in his own pursuit to conquer the grid. As Riku's jobs go though, he tells them to leave this one to him and takes down the Dream Eater. Sam and Korra eventually are able to escape with his dad left behind, and after all is said and done, Riku reflects on how there are many portals he has gone through and will go through, but regardless, the venture always waits, and that he's ready to do that alongside with Sora. So he seals the fourth sleeping world and moves along. So Riku actually finds himself back in Traverse Town, where Joshua had apparently called them for help. They're apparently dealing with a Dream Eater jumping from both versions of the world. Without a question, Riku offers his help and sets off to corner the Dream Eater. Just before he can though, Joshua has some information. He explains that he originally thought that two sides of the world were parallel, but after his friends reunited with each other, he noticed that all the timers on their hands for the game were different. Riku notes that time running differently between two worlds is perfectly normal, but Joshua notes that if the worlds really were parallel like he thought, then time would flow the same in both. Since it doesn't, they are not parallel. He makes the conclusion that for all the similarities, these are two distinct worlds. The two come to the conclusion that one of the worlds is actually just a dream, and although this doesn't help Joshua and his friends, he thinks this information might prove valuable to Riku and Sora. They put the question to rest for now, and Riku heads off to help set up the trap for the Dream Eater. Riku catches up with Beat and his game partner Ryan, who are fighting off the Dream Eater. In the midst of catching up though, the Dream Eater, who was patiently waiting for them like any antagonist would, gets fed up and runs off, leaving Riku in pursuit. So after a struggle, he makes his way to the 3rd district, where they pin the Dream Eater between the two worlds. He jumps to the other version as planned, and Riku leaves Sora to take the rest for there. Riku sets off again, but Joshua leaves him with a warning that if this is really a dream, then Riku needs to be careful about what he believes he sees. Next up, Riku sees himself in Country of the Musketeers, where in his first encounter he notices Pete, a troublesome person from the real world. Noticing that this isn't that Pete, however, Riku, much like us players, wonders what the heck kind of world this even is. Riku, knowing that Pete never adds up to any good, sets off to investigate. He finds a plot to destroy Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and Sora on the other side of this world. Yes, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, and no, not the Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Well, I guess Mickey kinda is, but I don't know guys, this world doesn't make any sense, just roll with it. So Pete's lackeys, the Beagle Boys, were planning to drop a large box on the gang, and Riku sets off to foil his plan. He finds a Minnie locked in a chest who he sets free. She explains that they need a device to stop the box from falling, and Riku sets off to get it. After retrieval, Riku of course runs into another giant Dream Eater who he has to dispatch of. Afterwards, he fixes the device and in turn saves the gang on the other side from certain doom. Again, how Riku fixing a machine affects that machine on a completely different world, I have no clue. This world is stupid, it makes no sense, so Riku seals the keyhole, says goodbye, all for one, moving on! Sorry about that, that word always gives me a headache. But anyway, Riku finds himself next in Symphony of Sorcery. Here he runs into not Mickey, but also not that Mickey, so I guess not Mickey, who has accidentally flooded the tower, and has fallen under a spell by a cursed musical score. Mickey explains the score can only be broken by a sound idea, and Riku travels into the score to discover what he needs to break the curse. He makes his way to find the sound idea he needs, but is intercepted by the gray-haired young boy from before. The boy prides at how Riku was supposed to have the Keyblade before Sora, but his succumbing to darkness prevented him from awakening that power. Riku eventually finally decides to pry the boy for information. All he can get, however, is that Riku really has locked darkness in his heart, and is therefore no use to the organization. Whatever use that was, Riku is unsure, but he defeats the enemy spawned by the boy and returns to save Mickey. He is joined by Sora's sound idea from the other side, and the two clear the cursed musical score and free Mickey. With that, Riku seals off the final sleeping world, but it's not over just yet. With the final world sealed, Riku should have returned to the real world. However, he finds himself in the world that never was, the same homeworld of the Nobodies from Kingdom Hearts 2. However, he's also still in his dream world outfit, meaning this is not actually the real world, just still asleep somehow. Confusing as it may be, Riku sets off to figure out what's going on. Along the way, he actually finds a sleeping Sora. Noticing Sora so dozing off deeper and deeper into darkness, he attempts to wake him up but is interrupted by a dark nightmare Dream Eater. Defeating him doesn't seem to save Sora, however, as even after, Sora still sleeps. Riku calls to Sora as much as he can, but realizes for some reason that Sora is still in the nightmare. It's then that Riku hears a familiar voice, the voice of Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness, once again. Ansem explains that Sora has fallen into the chasm of dreams and can no longer be reached anymore. He also explains that this whole time, as Riku discussed with Joshua earlier, Riku has been in a dream. Not just any dream, however, but at the beginning of the journey, Riku actually fell into Sora's dream, making him in a dream within a dream. A dark pool then opens and engulfs Riku below. He finds himself face to face with Ansem. Ansem explains more on how Riku noticed Ansem at the beginning of their journey and unconsciously dove into Sora's memories, in turn becoming a Dream Eater to protect Sora from nightmares. Ansem attempts as usual to pull at the darkness in Riku, offering that the power will help him wake Sora. Riku, however, as wise as he has ever been, doesn't fall for it. He knows that Ansem, or more accurately Xehanort, turned to darkness, and that darkness took his heart and the Keyblade with it. Riku acknowledges that that's half the reason he's even on this journey. After allowing the darkness in his heart, is he even fit to wield the Keyblade? Noting that even after locking Ansem away, here he is haunting him again. Riku notes that looking at Ansem reminds him of the memory of Terra, the boy he met so long ago whom he promised a secret with that started his whole curiosity of the outside world. Riku decides here that this is where his new journey begins, his new journey away from the dark side of his heart. Riku decides to return to the real world to save Sora, to consume the darkness and return it to light. With this, the two engage in a full-out battle, to which Riku comes out victorious. After defeating him, Riku looks at his Keyblade and realizes that he finally has what he told Terra he wanted long ago.
Strength.
To protect the things
what
that
matters.
matter.
With that, Riku finally makes it out of the dream. Realizing now that Xehanort split him and Sora up from the very beginning, Riku pushes on to find his friend Sora and wake him once again. Making his way up the castle with a little help from Dream Eaters along the way, Riku realizes that he still has his Dream Eater powers, which in turn means Sora is 100% still asleep. Eventually, Riku finds himself in the organization throne room, where he will come to realize the truth of everything. He finds Sora sitting in one of the chairs, but is interrupted in saving him by the same white-haired boy with yellow eyes. The boy says, "Hands off my new vessel," and Riku wonders what he means by vessel. The boy reveals that the organization is in work to divide Xehanort's heart into 13 vessels, and after their failed attempts to make Riku one, as well as Roxas, they decided Sora would become their 13. The boy then reveals himself as Xehanort from the most distant past, as more figures begin to fill the chairs around him. Young Xehanort explains that he was visited by his older self to guide him on his own journey, and then begins to explain the laws of time travel. It's kind of complicated to explain for this video, but the basics are that you must leave your body behind, and there must be a version of you existing in the destination you wish to travel. Young Xehanort then looks up at the shadowy figure still coming in, and explains his most future self is soon to come, the original Xehanort. You see, since Xehanort's Nobody and Heartless were destroyed, he's now allowed to fully return to his true body. Just as this is going on, a flash of light appears. Mickey comes down and casts Stopsa on the area around him, freezing time for everyone but him and Riku. However, before they can grab Sora, they are attacked by young Xehanort, who is shown to be resistant to the effects of stop magic. He and Riku then begin in an all-out final battle, where Riku of course comes out on top. After the battle, the effects of Stopsa wear off, and Xehanort finally reveals himself in his true form. Mickey asks Xehanort why he's doing any of this, to which Xehanort reveals his true goal, about Kingdom Hearts and the Keyblade. This is a huge lore point in the series, and I feel I can't skip over this, but it's kind of complicated, so I'll do my best to summarize. Basically, long ago, the Keyblade, that's with the symbol X, not the Keyblade we all know, safeguarded the true Kingdom Hearts, basically the source of all power and light. However, in a clash for that same light, Keyblade wielders who had made Keyblades based off of the X-Blade began the Keyblade War. That clash shattered the X-Blade into 20 pieces, 7 of light and 13 of darkness, and the only real Kingdom Hearts was swallowed by darkness. Xehanort once tried to create his own pure light and darkness to clash and form the X-Blade during the events of Birth by Sleep, which failed miserably due to Xehanort's rash actions, which he admits himself. So Xehanort reveals it's time to do it right, and that he's gathering his 13 darknesses to fight against 7 pure lights to form the X-Blade and take the power of Kingdom Hearts. Xehanort also explains that the role of the 7 lights is up to us to find. However, it's noted that due to the events of Birth by Sleep and the capture of Sora, we're 3 Guardians short, and Xehanort is about to have his 13. So Xehanort stands and Sora's chair rises. He summons his Keyblade and begins to cast his heart into Sora. Mickey and Riku attempt to stop him, but are stopped by Xemnas and Ansem, who have also been brought through time as a member of the 13. All hope seems lost as Xehanort's heart flies towards Sora. That is, until an unexpected guest arrives to save the day. Axel, or more specifically Lee now, due to him regaining his true body like Xehanort, appears in a ball of fire, blocking Xehanort's advance and saving Sora. Sigbar, who is also there as a vessel, notes they're out of time and asks what they should do. That's when Saix himself attacks Lee, revealing himself also as a vessel. Mickey and Riku are grabbed by the Dark Guardian controlled by Ansem before Donald and Goofy also appear, landing on the Guardian and freeing the two. At this point, the Xehanorts begin to fade, and in his last words, Xehanort repeats it's not over. He will finish his vessels, and the Guardians must get ready for the ultimate clash to come. So the gang regroups at Yensid's tower and inform Yensid of all they've learned. Sora, however, is still asleep in the events prior, and after pondering for a solution, it's decided that Riku will dive into Sora's dreams once again to awake him from his slumber. So in this dream, Riku battles a dark armor seeming to be protecting Sora, and after his defeat, Sora appears but fades into a dark pool. With his Keyblade left behind, Riku picks it up and raises it forward, opening a path ahead to continue on. When he comes to again, he finds himself on Destiny Islands. In this dream version, Riku meets 3 people who he must answer 3 questions. What is it you're so afraid of? To which Riku answers,
Losing something that's important.
what's the one thing you care about more than anything else? To which Riku answers,
My close friends.
and finally he is asked, Riku, what do you wish? And Riku wishes.
To recover something important that I lost.
After answering all these questions, Riku is met by none other than Ansem the Wise, who perished in the events of Kingdom Hearts 2. He reveals in an attempt to atone his actions, he digitized himself and his research and hid both inside Sora. He explains that the data is a clue, to which he hopes will help them recover all the friends that they have lost in the last 11 years of dark events. Ansem also explains that due to Sora's innate ability to connect with everyone, it is Sora who holds the key to bringing back everyone they have lost. Ansem finally asks why Riku is even here, and Riku explains that he needs to wake Sora up. The two have a laugh about Sora being asleep yet again before Ansem says that Sora is indeed already awake, and has been since Riku defeated the dark armor guarding him and answered the 3 questions. So Riku begins his way back, but before he can go, Ansem says that he doesn't believe he ever learned his true name. He responds with,
It's Riku.
and makes his way back to his friends. When he comes to, Sora is indeed awake and hugs Riku, overjoyed that he is safe. Riku begins to note the irony that Sora is worried, but shrugs it off and asks how Sora is feeling. Sora explained he watched it all in his dream and could hear Riku's voice the whole time, before thanking him for saving him. Yensid notes they both perform admirably and the boys stand up as it's time to reveal the results of their Mark of Mastery exam. Yensid first notes that he's relieved to have the boys back unharmed and expresses his apologies for not foreseeing these dangers ahead of time. He then says how, due to the coming events destined to happen, he believes they need a new Keyblade Master with a new kind of power. Yensid notes Sora and Riku both deserve the honor. However, due to Riku's bravery in traversing sleep again to save Sora, it is Riku who has passed the Mark of Mastery and is named our new Keyblade Master. After everything Riku has gone through, all the dark roads walked, he has finally emerged into the light. After everything, Riku has deemed himself worthy and atoned for his actions. He is a true Keyblade Master. He accepts the thanks from everyone, and Lee even reveals himself to be training to be a Keyblade wielder as well. He was going to come in to save the day Keyblade in hand, but couldn't seem to materialize it. However, in a hand-waving motion, noting maybe he did it wrong, a burst of flame reveals Lee's Keyblade, to which everyone is shocked. Before we close out Dream Drop Distance, however, Riku was given one more final task, to retrieve someone who Yensid was aware could wield a Keyblade, and should become one of their guardians. So Riku returns, followed behind by Kairi herself, who will join Lee in the training to become a Keyblade wielder. So the next game in the series focuses mainly on some backstory for Aqua, but a little bit does happen with Riku in the setup for Kingdom Hearts 3, so I'll touch on it briefly. Yensid explains that it's time to focus on the next step and save the lost Keyblade wielders to become guardians. Aqua, Terra, and Ven, the 3 heroes of Birth by Sleep. We currently have no idea where Terra and Ventus are, but Mickey does know a little bit about Aqua. During the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, Mickey found her in the Realm of Darkness, and in attempts to get her out then, she sacrificed herself to close the doors and was unfortunately left trapped in there once again. Riku expressed his frustration that he didn't bring this up sooner and that maybe they could have already saved her. However, Yensid notes that he forbid Mickey from bringing her up, as they didn't possess the safe means to save her and knew that if Riku or Sora knew, one of them would surely embark on a reckless attempt to save her that would have failed. However, times are different now. Riku is a full Keyblade Master with the power of waking, and Mickey possesses a Keyblade from the Dark Realm. So, with new clothes built to protect them from the darkness, Riku and Mickey set off to find Aqua, while Kairi stays behind to learn to wield the Keyblade. So the next time we see Riku, he and Mickey are in the Realm of Darkness searching for Aqua. While here, Riku notes things feel so much different since the last time he was in the Dark Realm. Mickey notes Riku has grown so much since that time, and Riku follows by saying this time he's not scared anymore. In fact, he's exhilarated to face the challenge. Mickey notes that maybe he's different this time because he finally found the strength to protect what matters, to which Riku reflects on his promise he made to Terra. So Riku asks how they're going to find Aqua anyway, and Mickey says that usually he would just follow his heart. However, this time feels different, as the closer he gets, the hazier his connection to her feels. This shows signs that she's falling into darkness, but the boys agree that they can't give up hope. So they continue on and eventually find themselves at the Dark Shore, the same one Riku and Sora ended up after defeating Xemnas. Riku hopes that since he and Sora found their way back to the realm of light here, that maybe Aqua did too, but Mickey notes that it's not the same, and that Aqua has in fact fallen into a darker abyss. He also says that they aren't equipped to go any deeper than they are now, and are shortly interrupted by a swarm of Heartless. Due to Heartless being much stronger here, the boys are sadly overwhelmed. In the process, Riku is swallowed by darkness, and in the aftermath, Riku is floating in a pool of darkness where he hears a strange yet familiar voice. The voice says that he didn't expect to see Riku again, and asks him why he's even here. Riku explains that someone needs him, to which the voice actually offers help. Riku asks who this person is, but before they can answer, Riku wakes back up on the beach with Mickey at his side. Mickey was able to defeat enough of the Heartless to free Riku, but in the aftermath, Riku's Keyblade was destroyed. As well as he has a new haircut. So the boys decide to regroup and prepare better for the fight. Riku expresses concern on leaving Aqua, wondering if she's scared and alone like he was his first time here. Mickey points out that Aqua is strong like Sora, and that he's sure that she will be alright in time for them to return and save her. So before they leave, Riku leaves his broken Keyblade, knowing that he's leaving it here for the other me, as Riku understands that that voice was the replica from Rechain of Memories. So once back at Yensid's tower, they run into Sora, Donald, and Goofy, who just got back from their own adventure to learn how to regain the power Sora lost from almost becoming a vessel for Xehanort. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to do so. Riku and Mickey note that their journey didn't fare any better, and catch everyone up on what they learned in the Realm of Darkness. They ponder on other avenues they could take, but decide in the end that Aqua is going to be the key to restoring everyone else. Yensid offers the advice that Aqua visited many worlds herself and connected with many hearts, so Riku and Mickey decide to retrace those steps in hopes to find clues on how to save her. Before they leave, however, they're both equipped with upgraded Keyblades, as well as given a gummy phone invented by Chip and Dale to communicate across the worlds. So they find their way to Radiant Garden, where they investigate the spot that Aqua originally fell to darkness. Also, after pondering for a bit, they come to the realization that Xehanort possessed Terra's body, and that body would become the one to split and make Xemnas and Ansem, which is why the two look so much younger than Xehanort himself. They also conclude that Xehanort must still have Terra, and is using him as one of his vessels. After this, they call Sora on the gummy phone to share all this information they discovered with them. While discussing with Sora asks for advice on how to even give Roxas a body to put his heart in. Riku comes up with the idea of the replicas, that with Roxas' heart, the replica would take the form of the heart inside, giving him a body again. They decide to discuss this with Ienzo, Zexion's real form, who had also been restored and turned into the Guardian cell, much like Axel. The boys then make their way up the castle to do just that. They are sadly informed that replicas were Vexen's specialty. However, after everyone was recompleted to their true forms, they haven't seen Vexen and have no idea where he ran off to. Riku then throws out the idea that Vexen was taken by the organization to help them use replicas as well. They consider this a real possibility and set off to inform Master Yensid. The whole gang regroups at Yensid's tower, Sora, Donald, and Goofy included. Sora reveals that they were confronted by the organization on their travels, and the organization claims to already have their 13 darknesses, which if true is a serious concern for the Guardians. Sora also explains that they found out that the original 7 princesses, excluding Kairi, have passed on their light to all new princesses, and with the Guardians still short, Xehanort would likely target the princesses to fulfill the pieces of the Keyblade. They also reveal that after confronted by an org member named Vanitas, that they learned that Ventus's heart actually sleeps within Sora. They begin to think that maybe they can rescue Vin now, but without Aqua, they don't know where his body is to restore it. Sora wants to help them find Aqua, however without the power of waking, a power they needed to learn in the Mark of Mastery exam, it was too dangerous for Sora now, as of course Riku learned it, but Sora did not. Riku tells Sora that once he recovers that power, he can join them and find Aqua together. So Riku and Mickey journey back to the Dark Shore once again to find Aqua. This time, however, didn't bode much different, as once again they were overwhelmed by the dark forces. However, this time they were greeted by a dark entity, one controlling all the Heartless attacking them. It turns out that that dark being is in fact Aqua, who had fell so far into darkness that she was overcome by it all. She expresses anger at Mickey for leaving her there, and sorrow on how she was left all alone and eventually fell. She claims all that's left in her heart is misery and despair. Grabbing Mickey's Keyblade, Aqua stands tall to fight Mickey and Riku. Mickey being currently subdued by darkness, Riku walks forward. He summons his Keyblade, accompanied by the will of his replica beside him, and stands to face Aqua by himself. In the fight, Riku begins to become overwhelmed, knowing he just may not be enough to save Aqua. Instinctively, he calls out to Sora, to which in his surprise a door of light opens and Sora himself emerges. The two team up and dispel all the darkness around, freeing Mickey and leaving just Aqua herself left to be taken down. As Riku rushes to Mickey's side, Aqua charges at Riku likely for a fatal blow. However, once again Riku is saved by Sora, who blocks the attack just in time. Sora then states that he will handle it himself and tells Riku to watch after the king. Sora battles it out with Aqua and in somewhat a miracle defeats her and dispels the darkness inside of her. They then return her body to the realm of light, where she wakes up on the shores of Destiny Islands. Aqua then wonders when the Destiny Islands fell to darkness, clearly still believing that she's in the realm of darkness, to which Riku lets her know that she's in the realm of light, that Aqua has finally returned home. The gang embrace her, sharing a touching moment, glad to have their friend back. Aqua and Sora eventually go to save Vin next, and a lot happens there, but they all return safely with another friend recovered. The next time we see Riku, all of the Guardians are gathered together, completed with Riku, Sora, Donald, Goofy, Mickey, Kairi, Lee, Aqua, and Ventus. Riku expresses thanks to Aqua for saving him in the realm of darkness long ago, and apologizes for not going to save her sooner and letting her down. Goofy then lets Aqua know that Riku is a full Keyblade Master now, to which he congratulates him and assures him that he did not let her down. So long story short, the gang have a bunch of touching reunions with each other, but it's time to get back to business as it's now time to go and face Xehanort. They can express concerns about Terra, but know that if he's with the organization then they will surely find him there and bring him home. Before heading for the Keyblade Graveyard, Sora, Riku, and Kairi return to the islands as a kind of rest moment before the final battle. Riku has his own conversation with his replica where Repliku, as I'll call him, discusses that he's got one more thing to handle before he can completely move on. He explains when he was defeated that he fell to darkness and was eventually ready to give up before Riku found him again. He decided then he would rather face his end with Riku rather than in darkness, so Riku moves forward knowing that he has his other him by his side. The gang all make their way to the Keyblade Graveyard where they finally confront Xehanort. As soon as they arrive, they are immediately met by Xehanort, who summons a swarm of thousands of enemies. The gang all split up to take them down and eventually move forward. Up ahead, they find none other than Terra. Ventus moves to confront him, but Terra reveals to be taken over by Xehanort and moves to take down our Guardians. He strikes down Ventus first and then Axel after. He then moves to strike Kairi, but Sora jumps in front, ready to take the blow for her. Goofy then blocks the attack before Donald preps his most powerful spell, Zeta Flare, and fires it at Terranort, taking him down. Donald falls over, clearly drained of energy after that attack, and they tend to Vin and Axel, who are also knocked unconscious. Before they can regroup, however, another Dark Swarm forms and Riku tells a stunned Sora to pull it together, that they haven't lost their hearts and can still be saved. Unfortunately for them, the Dark Swarm proves more dangerous than they can handle. It attacks and consumes everyone, with just Riku and Sora left standing. Sora screams at the loss of his friends. He feels powerless and is ready to give up. However, Riku, in a last act of courageousness, tells Sora that he knows Sora doesn't really believe they've lost. He takes his stand, and at a charging attack from the Dark Swarm, defends them off with everything he has left. The sad truth is that it wasn't enough, and just as foretold on that day, darkness prevailed and light expired. The next section will be explained more in Sora's timeline, but the basis of what you need to know is that Sora's soul barely survived. He then used the power of waking, which he had regained some time ago, to restore the hearts of all of his friends, and then sort of returned back in time before they all fell to darkness. So just back at the fight with Terranort, this time with some assistance from Naminé actually, we are saved by the lingering will of Terra, an embodiment of Terra's will that had been waiting to exact revenge on Xehanort and was guided here by Naminé. So after some more heartless fights and with a little help from the light of the past, this time they are confronted by a Riku vessel. The gang determines Xehanort must have brought a Riku from his time taken by darkness in Kingdom Hearts 1 and made him a vessel as well. Xigbar appears and explains they must prove themselves one last time as strong enough to be the Seven Lights. With Dark Riku spawning another large swarm of Heartless around them, the gang prepare for another fight once again. However, this time are saved by none other than Yensid. Yensid comes down in a flash of light with everything he has and holds off the Heartless so that the Guardians may continue on to face the 13 Darknesses. So with that, they set off to start the final confrontation. They meet up with Xehanort, accompanied by the rest of the vessels. Eventually, the gang all split up to fight their own darknesses. Riku himself sets off to fight Dark Riku, Ansem, and Xigbar. Sora eventually makes his way to Riku and the two team up to take them down. Ansem disappears mid-fight, leaving just Dark Riku and Xigbar. Once Xigbar is taken down, he reveals that he only helped Xehanort to be bequeathed the old man's Keyblade after. Riku says it would be wasted on him, and Xigbar transports away. We see him on top the wall ahead, where his body falls and his weapons fade, insinuating that he's faded for good. However, much will be told of what became of Xigbar for real, but for now, Dark Riku remains. After defeating him as well, the Dark Riku exclaims that he is the real Riku. Confused by this, Riku asks if this other Riku is the version of him when he was possessed by Ansem in the past. To his surprise, Repliku emerges from our Riku and explains that this is actually a version of him, not a past version of Riku, and begins charging forward, attacking the other Repliku. He then separates the dark soul of himself from the replica he resided in, leaving the empty vessel behind. Our Riku shouts for him to take the vessel so he can have his own body again, but Repliku shakes his head, as he actually intends for the vessel to be used to save Naminé, his one last mission as he said before, saving Naminé. The two then part ways for the final time. After the fight, Sora goes off to help the others, and Riku is confronted by Demyx. Demyx, who double-crossed the organization after being benched as a vessel, comes to collect the replica as he's actually helping the Guardians now. With that, Riku sets off for his final fight. The next time we see Riku, he's with Mickey, fighting off young Xehanort, Ansem, and Xemnas, all brought back as vessels for Xehanort. Through their toughest fight yet, they take down all three of them, and all that is left is Xehanort himself. Riku does have a touching moment with Ansem, explaining that in some way he's actually going to miss him after all the two have gone through, but Ansem tells him it's time to move on, and tells him to go forth and seek what awaits before fading away. With all that, 12 clashes of the Darknesses have been completed, leaving just one more to form the Keyblade. Xehanort summons the Moon of Kingdom Hearts, as well as Kairi, who Xehanort had captured earlier. In a shocking event, Xehanort strikes Kairi down just before Sora could save her, completing the 13th and final clash. Sora and Riku are struck down by Xehanort, and Mickey attempts his own attack with Ultima, his most powerful spell. However, Xehanort freezes all time with Stopsa and then forms the Keyblade itself, now that all pieces have been fulfilled. Keyblade in hand and Kingdom Hearts summoned, it seems nothing can stop Xehanort. However, Riku notes during the exam that young Xehanort showed that Xehanort can transcend space and time, and that they can use that to trap him in another world. So in one last action, everyone together bans their Keyblades and fires at Xehanort, forcing him into a world known as Scala at Kylum. Sora, Donald, and Goofy then go themselves and take down Xehanort together, ending the threat once and for all. Riku and the rest of the Guardians eventually followed their hearts to Sora, making their way to him, where a defeated Xehanort is left standing. To sum up the end here, Ericus, who was Vin, Aqua, and Terra's master, as well as Xehanort's old friend, appears in a corporeal form. He stands by Xehanort, who is refusing to give up, and convinces his old friend that it's over, and the two move on to the afterlife. Sora then takes the Keyblade and uses it to dispel Kingdom Hearts, ending the threat once and for all. After the battle, Riku tries to comfort Sora with Kairi's loss, explaining that they'll find her eventually, but Sora isn't ready to stop. He decides to embark on his own journey to discover where she went, using the power of waking to do so. Mickey tries to express concerns with Sora about the dangers of this mission, but Riku tells Mickey that Sora's heart and mind are made up. They won't be able to change his mind, so the best they can do for now is believe in him. With that, Sora moves on and goes to find Kairi. So, I'm just going to say I'm not going to touch on the entirety of Remind with Sora's journey, as nothing too important to Riku's story happens here, and this video is already long enough. Long story short, Sora used the power of Waking to connect the hearts of his friends and eventually did restore Kairi. Along the way as well, Naminé is restored into a replica, and Riku goes to meet her at Radiant Garden and brings her back to the Destiny Islands. While here, the entire gang is gathered, having fun and enjoying each other's company. However, as they look at the Palpu tree, Kairi is sitting with Sora. To all their astonishment, Sora fades away, as using the power of Waking costs him dearly. For now, the gang has no idea where Sora's heart ended up, but their mission now is to find out just that. Terra and Riku have a touching reunion where Terra tells Riku how proud he is of him for finding the strength to protect what matters. Terra, accompanied by Aqua and Vin, then begin to searching the realm of darkness and hope to find a clue on Sora's whereabouts. So an entire year passes and no one has any clue still what happened to Sora or where he ended up. Roxas and Xion are searching their memories, Terra, Aqua, and Vin are searching the realm of darkness, and Kairi is asleep as Ansem the Wise, who was rescued from the realm of darkness, attempts to search her heart for an answer on where Sora is. Riku then makes his way to Radiant Garden, where their friends Leon, Aerith, Yuffie, and Sid have a lead on Sora. Riku catches them up on the last year, and Sid reveals what he's been working on. Sid had constructed every bit of data that they had on Sora. He also constructed the data of the Organization 13 as well, in hopes that all this could show some clue of where Sora ended up. However, unfortunately, this also ends up in a dead end. They are then confronted by a lady known as Fairy Godmother, a magical woman who has power over dreams. She explains that she was hoping that after finding nothing with Kairi, that maybe she could discover something within Riku's dream. You see, Riku had been having a dream where he was surrounded by tall buildings looking for Sora. In this dream, he also felt someone watching him from way up high, but that's all he can remember. Fairy Godmother determines this must be a key, as since Riku had been in Sora's dreams once before, then Riku must just have some kind of key to what happened. She is convinced that there's something to help find Sora within Riku's dream, as well as 2 other keys. So Riku and Fairy Godmother proceed to the castle and ask for what was found within Kairi's heart. You see, Fairy Godmother has the assumption that the secret lies within Riku's dreams, Kairi's memories, and one other thing. Kairi, who is finally awake, reveals that they found out something about the other side of their world. Through much confusing lore talk, they determine that this other side is something called unreality, or a fictional world where nothing that goes on in this reality can reach. With this, Fairy Godmother is convinced that she's on the right path, and decides it's time to show Riku and Kairi the final key. She then transports them to the final world, basically a place where people whose hearts and bodies have perished, but continue to persist due to something holding them from death. Here, Fairy Godmother introduces them to the nameless star, who she claims is the final key. She explains that this star came from the unreality where it's speculated Sora resides, and that through all these keys, Riku can travel to that realm to find Sora. The star confirms she has indeed met Sora herself, and after listening to Riku's dreams, says that the place with tall buildings he described reminds her of Quadratum, so everyone determines Sora must be there, and with the star's help, Riku opens a portal to Quadratum. Kairi does attempt to go with Riku, but Riku says she needs to train more before taking on a mission like this. With that, Riku transports himself to the other side of reality, where the rest of his story, likely in Kingdom Hearts 4, is yet to be told. Wow. Okay, that was a lot longer than I anticipated this video being. Riku being the main side character, he has a ton of moments in the series, and therefore his timeline is beefier than say someone like Aqua or Naminé's would be. Regardless, going through the entire series to compile all of Riku's story was really fun, and I really can't wait to see what happened to him when KH4 comes out. Thank you all for watching the video if you made it this far. Please do comment down below which character's timeline you would like to see the most next, and I'll do my best to make my way through everyone before Kingdom Hearts 4 releases. Hopefully we can get everyone's story told, but for now, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any timeline to come, as well as like the video if you enjoyed so that more people will get to see just what Riku is all about. With that said, thank you all, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.